Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about Western localizers and anime again.
They're still losing their shit, aren't they?
They are still losing their shit.
Yeah, yes. Shocker.
Apparently, it has come out that one of the localizers for a show called Lovely Complex delighted in changing the dialogue because he personally didn't think the show was that good, so he just changed it.
But that wasn't what he was hired to do.
That's not what he was hired to do. Now, in some cases, I'm going to be clear, in some cases it does work. Ghost Stories.
I was going to say Ghost Stories.
Ghost Stories is a good example. So before people be like, well, Ghost Stories.
Well, not now. Now they'll be canceled right and left for that one.
Oh my God, Ghost Stories is like but at that point, like I think it was ADV and I think it was one of the last things they did and they did not give a shit.
And people had a sense of humor back then.
And they had a sense of, including some of the people that worked on that, like Monica Rial. She had a sense of humor back then. Her character was hilarious.
And a vagina, in case you didn't know.
Oh yeah, she has a vagina. Yes, I'm aware of that. I didn't realize that before until she had to make sure she told everybody at a panel that she did. Shocker, I didn't know. But anyway, we're going to talk about this. This is Lovely Complex. This is the latest show to come under the microscope now because everybody is sort of looking. Kind of side-eyeing these localizers more and more because it seems like they delight in basically being fan fiction writers and rewriting the dialogue for these shows, and they think that they should get like co-producer credit or some crazy shit.
This is why a lot of people won't even watch the dub version. They only watch the subtitle version of shows.
Well, even subtitles are changing.
I know.
I mean, the dub is kind of expected. The dubs, they do change it, but like they're just like, but they love it. They love it, and they love sticking it to the chuds. And I saw the one localizer they had for the one show. She was kind of going on about, well, I'm like a co-creator. I'm like, bitch, please. You're like some rando Tumblr person that they hired to translate.
They put themselves credit on the show then?
Yeah, they get credit.
Not just as that their translation, because I mean that they did translate or whatever. They did localize the text. But they give themselves credit beyond that?
Yeah, they do. They put in like, I'm a localizer on all your favorite shows and da, da, da. But a lot of times it's like, look, most anime fans, they just want an authentic translation. And when they find out, sometimes people don't even know. I mean, when we were kids, we watched very, very different versions of the shows than what they had in Japan, right? We didn't know any better. But as time marched on, people were like, oh man, we got like the half-assed version of Pokemon.
Hey guys, just FYI, Neptune and Uranus, not cousins.
They're not cousins.
Shocker, I know.
They don't
We all believed that one.
Those little triangles, yeah, they're not jelly donuts. And so many things they changed in the early seasons of One Piece. But in this case, this is more about, a lot of times about politics and personal ideology.
That's where we're coming.
And it's not like, oh, let's make it more kid-friendly. So we can put One Piece on Saturday mornings or whatever.
Sometimes they change things because the expression didn't work. So they made it close they could. Equivalent. And that's different than like the stuff that they've been doing where they're just completely changing everything because they don't like it.
So let's talk about this. I gotta give a hat tip to Niche Gamer. It's on there. And we'll give a hat tip to Grums too. Who
this is a pretty good analogy.
Brought up a pretty good analogy. So before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture, news, views, and rants. Guys, you get woohoo if you do.
Woohoo.
So Grums retweeted, Grums who we've had on the podcast before, by the way, retweeted an account called GamesNosh, who said it's absolutely hilarious that a lefty localizer self-outed themselves as an absolutely despising the author and work they were in charge of adapting. And in response, all the rest of his peers care about his damage control, not letting the chuds get a win. So we're going to read that article, but this is what Grums said about it before we get into it. Imagine if Taylor Swift hired someone to translate her song into Japanese, and that person injected their own lyrics, removed entire verses, and changed the melody to suit modern Japanese audiences, and then took artistic credit as a co-writer of the song. That's what they're doing to manga and anime now. That's true. And they're bragging about it, and they think it's fantastic. They think that they're like and they'll say flat out that they're kind of the gatekeepers, but this is why they're being replaced by AI. This is why, Japanese studios are taking matters in their own hands. They don't need them anymore. And I think they're looking at this too, and they're like, oh, fuck no. Like, we trusted you guys to translate this stuff, and this is what you're doing. So here's the original article, Niche Gamer. A freelancing contractor who worked on the English dub for Lovely Complex released a post boasting about his contempt for the original show and all the changes they made. In a now deleted, privated post, YouTuber Brendan Blaber, Jello Apocalypse, explained, I'm not familiar with them, sorry, explained his work on the series and his thought process behind the many changes he made to the anime series Lovely Complex. Firstly, he was not the individual hired for the job. Instead, he was contracted by the writer and the voice actor Marissa Lenti to assist him. Again, not familiar with. This is what he said. Hey, all, at various points over the last 2 years, my best pal Marissa and I were working on dubbing an old anime called Lovely Complex, aka Lovecom. You might have heard us whispering quietly about some kind of project in old streams. Well, this was it. So they sought to dub. Okay, so Amberly Connors from Sound Cadence sought to dub the show as cheaply as possible.
Yeah, well, she got what she paid for.
Yeah, as she is allegedly a fan of the series. So despite their open contempt for the source material, Lenti was working as the dub writer for free. And Blabber volunteered. Is it Blabber?
Yeah, because we can
volunteered to help out.
If it's free, we can do whatever we want because you're not paying for it.
Well, okay, so let's stop right there because this person volunteered, right? Let's stop right there. This is how you want to know how people infiltrate fandoms, and they infiltrate comics, and they infiltrate message boards. A lot of times they do it for free. And the reason that we have so many people working at like Marvel and DC now that are making fundamental changes to characters and whatever. Now, granted, editorial needs to kind of look at things and be like, yeah, let's not do this. But I'm just saying, a lot of them are asleep at the wheel. But the reason we have these people where they're at is they work cheap. 9 times out of 10, you look into it and they're working very, very cheap. And these companies are trying to save money. So like, yeah, okay, give this person, this Tumblr artist, whatever, a job, give them whatever. They worked in webcomics. They're happy with, $75 a page or whatever. And then that's how they get in. And then it starts from there,
much.
Because they're in their heart of hearts, they are fan fiction writers, right? That's what they are. Throughout the post, Blabber attempts, I'm just going to call him Blabber because I don't know what the hell his name is, attempts to justify his censorship and changes from the source material, citing transphobic tropes. In his opinion, that the main character, Risa Kozumi, is an actual psychopath and all over useless freak.
Okay.
Wow. I'll tell you what I think. I think Lovecom is a bad show about Risa, an actual psychopath and all over useless freak. Okay, well
that's basically what he said. So yes.
Then why did you volunteer to work on this show?
You know why? They could change it however they want it.
Yeah, pretty much. The biggest point of contention for the dub writers involves Seiko, a trans woman who's introduced early on in the series. Early on, Risa dislikes her, citing some vague preternatural awareness that she's trans. Rather than try and maintain the original script as closely as they could, Blabber and Lenti went on to cut things, changing context and otherwise altering dialogue from the original translation. He even says that you can watch the English dub with subtitles on to listen to our edits in real time. So the subtitled version apparently is more accurate, right? Is that what they're saying? And then the dub has been altered, and you can see why they changed it. The introductory episode is about gender identity, so it's not like we could write it out entirely, but we changed a lot of things to take the edge off. Okay. Why? That wasn't really your job, was it? Like, I mean, you don't have to here's my thing. If you don't like the source material, why did you volunteer to work on it? Oh, I know, to change it because you don't like it.
Well, yeah, because they said that originally the dislike of Seiko was changed from, I don't know, I don't like her. My trans radar is going off to, I'm jealous because there's another cute girl on campus. I don't want to lose out to the freshmen.
Oh, God. The end of episode reaction could generously be called confused, but they got the spirit about the whole thing. We rewrote those to be a lot more supportive of the trans character, especially Atani's dialogue, which made it clear he was still kind of disgusted by her. So they could have, they said there was even the option to acknowledge the anime as a product of its time, a 2007 anime based on a manga which ran from 2001 to 2007. Not to excuse the content, but in order to preserve the series as was. This is actually going on with Tomb Raider right now. Mm-hmm. And we didn't do a whole video on it, but they actually have a disclaimer at the beginning of the remaster of Tomb Raider, basically like, it's a product of its era, but rather than change it, we just want you to know that we're a lot more enlightened now than we were in 1998 or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, they could do that, but nah, it's a lot more fun to just rewrite the whole damn thing, isn't it? Okay,
wait, this next part, though, he exposes what the industry is doing in regards to these changes, which amounts to nothing. So they're talking about, of note, most anime distributors do tend to ask that you don't advertise changes, like making things less transphobic. This is because large swaths of the anime community are racist, sexist, transphobic, etc., and will descend upon a company's social media page for weeks over for the strangest things. So this person just pretty much labeled anyone who doesn't like the changes they make as racist, sexist, transphobic.
Yeah, I know Discotek is getting a lot of backlash right now for changing things. Funny and Crunchy works like that too. Most anime distributors don't care if you make things nicer or more gay or add more representation. They just ask that you don't flaunt the changes. Okay.
Or use buzzwords, which is what this person just did.
But that's the distributor. So, how much... Okay, so do the original creators of the works, do they care? Or is it just a case of they just sign it? You know what I'm saying? Did they just sign the rights, the English rights off to whatever, Funimation, Crunchyroll, and they just do their thing with it? Whatever they do, whatever. That's how it's released in the US, right? And they don't really have any say over it. But if it gets back to them that things are being changed for no reason other than to be current year politically correct, and there's a lot of backlash, and it actually impacts sales, which they would get royalties from, then perhaps this is why they're looking into AI translation.
Well, and they're saying don't brag about it.
Don't brag about it.
They don't want you to brag about how all the stuff you made that were changes, because it just comes back to us and costs us money, and that's exactly what this person just did.
It goes back to Japan too. Like, I think Japan was in a lot of ways, they were probably blissfully unaware of what would happen. Like, they would, sign off on a series or whatever, come over here, they do whatever, but it might be that the contract didn't stipulate that they had to, sign off on all the changes. And so they just do what they want to do with it. They get their royalty check. They don't give a shit, right? As long as they're getting paid, they don't give a shit.
Wait till you get to the last part. They said the best part of the whole thing is when he sarcastically is frustrated that their dub is this good, because he feels that anyone who picks up the show and enjoys it will only do so because the dub, when discussing his dub of the context of the show, says we made it good because it sucked.
Wow.
Frankly, having the dub come out this good at the end is a little frustrating. Anyone who watches the show as a kid and has fond memories of it and revisits the dub will think, wow, it's just as good as I remember. But it isn't. We made it good. This show sucked.
Okay, I would brag about it. Now, okay, just to bring it... What a dumbass. Like, you just cost Discotek.
But not just that, no one's going to hire this person.
Nobody's going to hire this person. Well, they're not going to have to worry about it, because this is exactly why Japanese studios are like, yeah, we'll just use AI translation. Thank you very much. Because they're like, we don't have to worry about this shit. And then these people out there bragging about, and what they're doing is they're basically disparaging the original creators too. They're like, well, since they were just a bunch of bigots that put out shitty product, why the hell, as a Japanese studio, would I want to work with Discotek again when your translators are disparaging the product that you're working on?
I think the problem too is they've changed stuff like this for years in the dubs. It's an ongoing issue. Everybody knows that they've made changes to make it more, American. Like, no one really needed the Uranus and Neptune to be cousins, but they did it. So they've been doing it for years. But the problem is that these people are going out of their way to make changes that aren't even necessary to make just because they don't like something. Like, this is, as they admit, this person admits. It's like the difference between making a couple changes or making it so you can understand it in English better, it makes sense to American audiences, then there is like rewriting entire plot points of the show because they're personally offended.
Yeah.
There's a different, they always have done this. But the difference is they're taking it a little too far now, which is why they're threatening AI. And then they're bragging that theirs is better because, it was just a shitty thing to begin with. I mean, but then Ghost Stories was much better than the original. But it went all in on being cringe on purpose. And now people watch it because it's hilarious. But this person would have shit themselves and had a stroke within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, because in this case, he was changing it to be more politically correct. But Ghost Stories was like the most... Because it's hilarious to see these kids juxtaposed with this really like raw adult humor. And then it's really ironic to see people who willingly worked on that show be Puritans now and be like,
They even bring up that they brought in sensitivity readers, trans sensitivity readers. So they didn't, because, they said this, of course, includes running the rewritten script by sensitivity readers and hiring people from specific groups to join the cast rather than concern themselves with the author's original story.
Oh my God. Yeah. So as soon as somebody says they're bringing sensitivity readers into anything, I immediately tune out. I'm like, no, these people make a job for themselves by finding things to be offended about that most normal people would never be offended about.
I guess my thing is, if an anime is so far that you don't think you have to change pretty much everything about it to make it palatable for you and your friends, then maybe just don't spend the money on bringing it out as an English dub.
Maybe.
I mean, especially if it's an old one that you don't think anybody cares about anyway. So, maybe just don't do it. And they weren't spending money, which is why they didn't get paid to ruin it.
Yeah.
They ruined it for free.
So further, this Scratch Point, this is where he got the where Niche Gamer got the tweet from. Said further confirms the dishonest practices of Western anime companies. They hide any changes that would upset anime fans because the audience is full of horrible human beings who criticize them for overwriting the creators' work.
They said so. They said that a large amount of anime fans are terrible people because they won't agree with me changing everything.
People will admit to rewriting the scripts because they personally hated it, and then act as though who want the original work to be faithfully translated or acting unreasonable.
Terrible people.
Or terrible people. Yeah, the only unreasonable part is hiring someone that despises the source material. And they're working for free or for next to nothing because their whole purpose is to infiltrate and change things.
And go around being like, well, I'm important.
Yes. And brag about how we made it the transiest thing out there. I'm like, because you're an activist and you just wanted to change it to suit your current year sensibilities. And that's not the original work. This thing was a product of its time. You can admit that. You can say, hey, look.
Or just don't do it at all.
Or just don't do it at all.
Here's the thing. If you're worried about being a product of its time and you're just trying to cash in on it because it's some kind of anime, you think everybody's just going to eat this shit up, then maybe just, not do it. If you're going to change everything about it and make it not what it was, and it was so horrible to begin with, and it was so offensive, then why do it at all?
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
They're not even like, oh, we want to give the audience a better experience. We think it's going to sell better. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's just we didn't like it personally, so we're going to change it all. And that is the attitude that so many people working in so many different areas of entertainment have now. It's just like, oh, we personally didn't like it.
Right,
so
and if you question it, you're just a terrible person, not them.
Yeah, this type of I know better than the writer attitude is way too common, needs to be abolished. Again, it's not just anime, it's everything.
Well, the difference was it was so well liked that it got turned into an anime.
I know. It was.
Then I think the writer knows more than you, at least from a standpoint of when it was.
All right, so we're going to wrap this one up, guys. There we go. More proof that maybe AI is not such a bad thing after all.
Well, it depends.
It depends. I think there are plenty of people out there who would do authentic translations. They're just
not
not
going to
hiring.
get the chance now because of these people.
No, probably not. Probably not. So we're going to wrap it up.
Yep.
Please subscribe. We'll talk later.
Bye.